I'm hoping he at least comes.
I would have thought it would have been attached to
That wants to buy your bike. Why, you trying to buy a new one? You're just trying to get rid of.
Time to sell it. Getting too old.
I mean, I'm a minute.
You are not.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Ron Kath. I'm the Vice Chair of the South Washington County School Board, and I'd like to call this meeting of the South Washington County School Board to order. This meeting is being held on Thursday, May 9th. We are beginning at 6:30 this evening. We are at the District Service Center in Cottage Grove, Minnesota. For those in the audience, we appreciate you spending time with us this evening, and then also those watching via our media stream events that we have. So thank you again for being participants in our education here at 833. With that, Dana, if I could have the roll, please.
Pat Driscoll.
Present.
Heather Hirsch is absent. Michelle Whitty.
Here.
Katie Schwartz is absent. Sharon Van Leer.
Present.
Ron Kapp.
Here,
Tracy Burnett is absent. But
she will be coming. I'm just kicking off the meeting. At least I'm hoping she shows up, but we'll figure it out. From there, please join me for 2.0, and that's the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. With that, then, I'd ask my colleagues for approval of our agenda this evening.
So moved.
Moved by Sharon. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Michelle. All those in favor of the approval of our agenda signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to 4.0, that's our district highlights. That's an agenda item scheduled for May 23rd. Moving on to 5.0, that's our public comment. This again is an agenda item scheduled for our May 23rd meeting. From there, we can move into 6.0. That's our consent agenda items this evening. Consent agenda items are considered routine and non-controversial by the school board and will be approved by a single motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. Prior to this meeting, board members have had the opportunity to review each of these items and may have requested they be moved to an action item for individual consideration. That has not occurred this evening, so I would ask for a motion to approve our consent agenda items.
So moved.
Moved by Sharon,
second.
seconded by Pat. All those in favor of approval of our consent agenda items this evening signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to 7.0, that is an action item, a workshop item, 7.1, and that's a showcase of our schools. We have the privilege tonight to have two of our principals with us this evening. We have Cynthia Maldonado from Nuevas, Fronteras, and we have Arthur Williams from Middleton this evening, so we're looking forward to the presentations.
Hello, good evening. I was just seeing if this works. Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Yo soy Cynthia Maldonado de Nuevas Fronteras. Hablo español y inglés. And I will say this all in Spanish, in English I would, but I think we prefer English, correct? So Nuevas Fronteras, I don't need to do that. I can just do this, correct? Nuevas Fronteras, of course, is our Spanish immersion school. This is the mission. It's a Spanish immersion school. We focus on academics, but also Spanish proficiency and cultural awareness. We want the students to be global citizens that are joyful. Oh, you don't stand up? I'm so used to presenting. Sorry, everybody.
You can show us your dance after.
Later on, we'll do a little dance. Anyways, academic goals. The academic goals for Nuevas, we are working on standards-based instruction, creating an articulated plan, K-5, in Spanish and English. All grade levels are implementing a new curriculum called ARC, which is the American Reading Company. We have a new tests that the kids do to see where they are independently reading in English and in Spanish. And then we monitor their growth and make sure that they're making sufficient growth throughout the year. As well as K2 did curriculum in math this year, and next year it'll be 3-5. So just like the rest of the district. We also have a special, obviously, academic goals in Immersion, and we focus on making sure that all the teachers understand what Immersion education is. We all read a book called A to Z, Practical Guidance for Teachers and Administrators in Dual Language Instruction. And we also work with CARLA, the Center for Advanced Research and Language Acquisition, and 10 of the teachers, K-12, went last summer to the 101 Institute, so we could refresh on what is immersion. Another goal we have is our climate and culture. Nuevas Fronteras created a climate and culture of voice and choice for our students. That's what they said they wanted, and we did that this year. We created a student congress where their words were responsible, unique, thankful, friends who have fun. And every month we have an assembly and we focus on one of those things, and throughout the month we talk about that in their classrooms. Successes this year, I would say the biggest one is reading. The kids are just reading so much. We have so many new books. As you know, we have a new building and we have a new library, and it's full of new books, and our curriculum is full of books. So we have a lot of goals in reading at home and at school. And that top photo is about the Club de Lectura. So they have expectations at school and home to read in Spanish and English. So, and then to round it out, we have a video that my assistant is queuing up for me over here. I hope it works.
Noticias de Nuevas Fronteras. Hablan en español.
Bienvenidos a Nuevas Fronteras, donde los niños son excelentes, los maestros son fantásticos y somos una comunidad muy unida.
At Nuevas Fronteras, because we come from all corners of the district, we are really deliberate about building a community.
Di tu nombre y después lo decimos otra vez. Look.
We all are bilingual and we talk the same language, like 2 different languages.
What we found to be so great about our Spanish immersion experience is, of course, our children are bilingual, and it's such a gift to be able to give them, and we're so proud that District 833 offers this as an option for students.
Nuevas Fronteras is a 90-10 Spanish immersion program, which means in kindergarten, we have 90% of the day in Spanish and 10% of the day in English. So they're very immersed in Spanish.
¿El puntero o la puntero?
El puntero.
As they move up the grades, they get more English.
We understand that there's a trust in knowing that you're going to make mistakes and that you're going to be corrected, and we're just learning in this.
It's really fun. It might be hard at first to learn, but once you get a hang of it, it's really fun to understand and learn.
Mis amigos y amigas son muy especiales. Ellos son científicos, matemáticos, autores.
I get to play with my friends and I like school.
The teachers at Nuevas are fantastic, and my kids are very different children with very different strengths and very different opportunities for improvement. And the teachers have really focused on what my kids need to be successful.
In my classroom, there's a lot of visual arts. I feel like an actress at times because, I say, pon tu mochila, the backpack, you're acting it out so they understand better. Entonces se escribe número 9.
Una de las cosas de Nuevas Fronteras que me gusta mucho es de que tenemos una buena comunidad, comunidad de padres, comunidad de maestros y comunidad de estudiantes. I look at Nuevas in the whole community, teachers, and the community aspect of it. I'm like, I want to be part of that, and that's the reason why I also wanted my kids to go through the program.
And I'd just like to say one last thing. I have a brochure that I can hand out to everybody that we can look at. And I wanted to mention as well that we have a new teacher, and her name is Irma. And so you can welcome her when you come over to visit. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Cynthia? I know she's out working now, passing. Are there any questions?
Well, I certainly want to thank Cynthia and her staff, especially for all your work with the new school, to be in a school that is still being fully constructed, and for the teachers to have to move in and pack and then move out. And
That reminds me, I did
Yeah.
want to say thank you so much for all the things we've been given at Nuevas by the district. It's amazing. The school is beautiful, the library is beautiful, everything that we have. Thank you so much.
Oh, very good. And, as you know, I have a daughter that went through the program who was one of the second. So she is at DePaul and took got into advanced Spanish and was talking to kids in Mexico as part of their class. And they were like, wait, you're not native? I mean, they were really impressed with her Spanish. And so I know it's hard sometimes for parents, but the opportunities for kids to learn at that level is really amazing, and preparing them for all that lies ahead. So thanks for all that you guys do.
I do just want to thank, too, the staff. There was a lot of things that had to happen, and Julie also, and Cynthia, that for what had to come together the weekend before school started and the flexibility. This summer we have another really big task ahead to get all the construction done. But I'm sure the way the staff has responded will be set to go in the fall, even if the construction isn't quite finished. So thanks for all the work, and thanks, Julie, too. And it is every day that I go over there, it's a little bit different, and just moving forward in a positive way.
Mm-hmm. It's really turning out nicely. It's really turning out nicely. Thank you.
Great.
Good evening, Chair Kath, board members, Dr. Jacobus, and Cabinet. My name is Arthur Williams, and I am the very proud principal of Middleton Elementary School. And I want to introduce Mrs. Jenna Downs. She's my fantastic assistant principal, and I thought it would be nice to have her join me with this presentation. And as you can see on the screen, under Middleton Elementary, it says it's a great day to be a Mustang. That's kind of our slogan this year. Kind of got tagged on at the end of morning announcements, which I'll talk about in this presentation. So the focus of this presentation is going to be the culture and climate of Middleton Elementary. And the mission that you see here was formed by our Culture and Climate Committee. And I must give a big shout out to two of my wonderful kindergarten teachers, Sarah Yamelin and Holly Hins, for thank you. Thank you. Sarah Yamelin and Holly Hins for really taking a lead in chairing the Culture Climate Committee. But as a committee, we came up with the mission to empower students to believe in themselves, demonstrate respect and kindness towards others, and achieve academic success. And with our climate culture, we gave all of our students a climate culture survey this fall, and we are in the process of giving that climate culture survey again this spring. So here's just some highlights. 97.3% of our students say they try their best at school.
93% say I have good relationships with my teachers and other adults at my school.
And about 95% of the students say at school, adults treat others who are different with respect.
And students feel they are a good friend. And I wanted to add too, with this survey that we, with our primary students, we actually had them take this survey on a piece of paper, rather than electronically, to allow them to be able to better answer and understand that they were completing the survey.
So from the survey results, we have done a number of things to make sure the climate and culture at Middleton is something that the students enjoy. And two of those things, first we had a kindness month, and we presented the staff with a kindness calendar. And each day of that month it had a book to read or a poem to read and a video link to go along with it. And then classrooms took time to talk about what kindness is, and we encouraged students each week. We had 5 things for them to do as a random act of kindness, and one of them might have been writing a thank you note to our recess playground lunchroom supervisors, write a thank you note to a crossing guard. If you see a piece of trash on the ground, pick it up, throw it away, kind of thing. And the students, I have to say, the students really got into that, and it was really neat seeing them walk around the building and passing different notes to different staff members.
Another way that we encouraged kindness at Middleton is we participated in Kindness and Chalk in the fall, and that's a nationwide event that you can sign up for, and you get to be on the Kindness and Chalk map. And what we did is we gave chalk to students in the morning. It could have been, we had some kids from Kids Club that were able to participate and come out, and then as well as students as they arrived to school by bike or walkers and the busers. And we had students write messages of kindness on the sidewalks as to greet students and families as they arrived. We also encouraged teachers to take their classes outside on that day and add additional messages of kindness, and it was beautiful in the parking lot and all over our sidewalks. Our custodian there's a lot of chalk that got tracked into the building, but it was beautiful, all the messages, and it was a very fun day.
And some other things that we do to promote school culture. The first picture on the left, every morning the students watch morning announcements. And on the morning announcements, we recognize student birthdays. We have a focus area of the week, which is usually like a lunchroom, recess, bathroom, hallway, just our work, respect, belong rules. And in the middle picture you see, we have a Mustang Pride award that the students can earn each month if they earn a certain number of Mustang Pride tickets. And for April, it was a choice between an all-school bingo day or an all-school rainbow day, where a different grade level wore a certain color. And by far, the students picked the bingo day, so we're in the process of having an all-school bingo day. And some other things that we've done with morning announcements. In the month of February, we celebrated Black History Month. Each day on morning announcements, I featured an important African American person along with the video link, so classrooms took the time to watch the video and have discussions about that important African American person. And I did that because as we were talking about as staff, there were some fourth grade students that said, I've never heard of Black History Month before. So I thought that was important for me to do as a person of color myself, and for students that look like me in the building to really feel like they are part of our school culture. And also the last picture, Twitter, for those of you that are on Twitter, I tweet all the time, multiple times a day, to really build that culture at our school. And I've had a number of parents thank me for getting to see a little piece of what is happening in the school or their child's classroom throughout the day. And a picture that I don't have on here, I really believe a big part of school culture is teacher attendance. When your teachers are there every day, it's so important. The students like to see it. And what I've heard from the teachers, going onto Irma all the time and filling that out is not a fun thing to do, so I know they like to be at school as well. So that's my presentation. Any questions about Middleton or our culture climate?
Questions?
They just look so happy.
It's a great, the students it's great. I get notes all the time from kids and seeing them say, oh, Mr. Williams, it's a great day to be a Mustang and things like that. So we're just building that common language, and I've heard from many teachers that the morning announcements that we do, it's just a great way, all the classrooms, all the students see and hear the same thing. So it's just a piece of building a strong school culture.
I'm glad to see that you are building culture, and people, children in the building feel included, and along with the staff, everybody should be welcomed and included in your school. So I'm glad to see that is part of your curriculum or whatever, but programming, and I really think it's significant. And thank you for all you do, both of you.
And we heard with the listening sessions, and every time I'm in Middleton, the staff there is so positive and happy. The culture certainly is positive with the adults, as you mentioned, and then translates to the kids. I appreciate the tweets, because I don't tweet well, and I'm always looking and thinking, can I keep up? I can't. And if I can retweet or at least like, I feel better. So nice job with just the communication. I think it would be great for parents, just to, like with Seesaw, that they see a little bit throughout the day of what might be happening at the school. You should. You could tweet for me. Yeah.
Well, again, we really appreciate you taking time in the evenings to come out and share this with the school board. Again, we don't get the opportunity to be in our schools all the time. So to have that opportunity to come before us, I know it's becoming a really good highlight for our board meetings and our workshop nights to hear those good things that are happening in our school. So thank you again for all of your efforts and actually coming and sharing tonight with us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you guys.
All right, we will move to 7.2, and as we transition, we have a career and technical education update, and that's going to be our principal of our alternative high school, Nick Falde. Nick, I'll let you introduce Jennifer, I think it is.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Chair Burnett, school board members, Dr. Jacobus, and cabinet, thank you for having me tonight. I have brought with me Jennifer Elsesser, our college and career readiness coordinator. She's going to speak a little bit on her career guide towards the end of our presentation. We had initially planned for the inventor space to be highlighted more significantly, but due to extracurricular activities related to the inventor space, those folks aren't able to attend tonight. They said to pass on that they would be planning on doing a more in-depth presentation this upcoming fall. So with that, I'll get started. So tonight we're going to take a quick look at CTE and Carl Perkins funding, and I'm going to go through some key components of that. We're going to look at the inventor space, as I said, and then our CCR pathway update. I wanted to start out with specifically Perkins funding. And what Perkins funding is I call it amongst colleagues who use Perkins a lot, Perkins 5. It's in the 5th iteration of its legislation. It's actually Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education Act. It's a federal grant that provides funds for approved career and technical education programs. And I know that's a large mouthful with a lot of stuff, so I'm going to try to parse through that a little bit as well. How that funding is accessed and who can access it, it's distributed on the basis of state-approved career and technical education programs, along with an appropriate license. Career and technical education programs that have been approved by the Minnesota Department of Education and have a teacher licensed in a specific career and technical field that they're instructing in. So what that looks like in the school is if you have a technical education teacher and they are teaching a construction careers type of class and they have a construction careers type of license, the district gets some funding for that. That also opens the door for them to apply for grant money to improve parts of their class, give them professional development opportunities, and give their kids those opportunities as well. The next one. So how is Career and Technical Education Program approved? So as part of accessing these funds, there's an approval process that happens every 5 years at the state level. There's a significant amount of paperwork and work that the teachers have to put in order to get these programs approved. It's documenting their licenses, it's documenting their classes, it is creating community and business connections to their classes. So is what they're teaching in their classes connected to community and that business entity? So it's it's a lot of describing how you do your class and how you reach connections into that next step after secondary education. What does it help support? Career and technical education, programs through professional development, student attainment of academic and technical skills, upgrading of equipment, school and work-based experiences, and career counseling and guidance. So this falls underneath several target areas as well. High school to college transition, programs of study. So how do your classes starting out at maybe Introduction to Woods lead you all the way to cabinet making, lead you all the way to building a house? What are those connections within that program? The accountability measures. So how do students in those CTE type courses, how do they do against other students in ACT tests, in Accuplacer tests, in the MCAs? Collaboration. Is there a collaborative approach between business and industry and those classes that are happening at the high school level? And is there a connection between, for us, Northeast Metro 916 and the consortium and other districts? And how do we relate or compare to the various districts around us? Employer, community, and education partnerships, I had mentioned that. And then service to special populations. And special populations doesn't necessarily mean just students with maybe an IEP. It actually means various demographic groups and various groups that maybe are less represented in a certain area. So I think to Bonnie Tho Austin, who is working at Park in the inventor space, one of the highlighted fields that we look at as a 916 consortium for Perkins grants is how many girls are in, or how many female students are in welding classes, and is that a real low population or a medium or a high population, and how do we flip the switch on that? So we really look at large-scale industries and trying to balance gaps in demographic areas. So some of the examples or items or experiences Perkins helped support this year in 833. The CT Works Conference. So 3 career and technical education licensed teachers in the building in each boundary high school were able to go to a CT Works conference where Perkins picked up the tab for that. And that's kind of the premier conference where career and technical education staff members and industry folks get together and just talk about a lot of the things I'm mentioning here. BPA program at Eastridge that Perkins pays for an advisor for that program. They pay for travel costs for a lot of the program, and they also pay for a stipend for any materials to prep students for events that they might go to. I have blenders for Woodbury High School. So in a fax type classroom, you're probably going to need some blenders, and they're eventually going to wear out. They were able to access funds to get new blenders this year. Industry tours at Eastridge. So the business department scheduled a lot of business tours just to get students in to see what was happening in the industry. With that, it pays for busing. It pays for the time for the teachers to go with the students out to those sites. There's digital marketing curriculum at Woodbury High School for their marketing department. And there's all of these small coffee type businesses across the district. At Woodbury, at Next Step now, at Eastridge, at Park. And a lot of the things that are in those student enterprise businesses are funded with Perkins money. So coffee makers and POS stations, specifically at Woodbury High School and Next Step, as well as Park. So,
Nick?
Yeah.
Can you explain POS and VPA? Just the acronyms for people.
POS would be the system that you run your check card through or your debit card through to get money to the business that's going on. And Business Professionals of America is what BPA stands for. That's our business entity or business club at Eastridge High School. So with that, I am actually going to transition to the inventor space at Park. The folks who are kind of in charge of this are Matt Maher and Bonnie Tho Austin, and their specific class they're looking at is how to make almost anything. And if you haven't been to the inventor space yet, please go over there and take a look. Some of the stuff that you're going to see in the short video that they provided, it's really cool, and they have more stuff coming. So I mentioned a lot of what the Carl Perkins money that comes helps out with. I sat down with Bonnie and Matt and said, what do you need in that inventor space moving forward? What would be the ideal classroom for you? And let's think about how we can capture those things using Carl Perkins money. So for the next school year, they have about, I would say, $10,000 worth of equipment going into that via Perkins. So that's money that the district doesn't have to use to give our students great experiences. So it's been 2 years in the making, presenting, touring, writing, reviewing, meeting, getting a lot of training. They were in northeastern Wisconsin. They took a couple weeks of training last summer to prepare for the inventor space. They use a design process in their work, and I'm going to actually let them take it away with the video, which would be next.
I like the class because every project is very individual and you create almost anything you want. And also we use the design process and it helps your projects come out even better.
The Inventor Space at Park High School is a high-tech lab that supports the pre-engineering course, How to Make Almost Anything. Students work through the engineering design process to better understand rapid prototyping, designing, innovating, and collaboration. Students use programs such as Adobe Illustrator, AutoCAD, Fusion 360, Slicer for Fusion, GrabCAD, and Thingiverse for the initial designing of the project. In the lab itself, there are 4 MakerBot replicators, 1 Stratasys U-Print, 1 MDX 50 CNC milling machine, vinyl cutter, and a universal laser engraver.
The reason that I like this class is because I can touch my idea. Whatever I think, I almost can make it like as the name, how to make almost anything. So my idea can become true with this class.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome. Thanks, Kat.
And like I said, they plan to be back to share a more in-depth approach to what they're doing with the Inventor Space this upcoming fall. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer.
All right, thank you. So I am very excited to show all of you our new career and college, or actually academic and career guide. So Nick and I both co-facilitate the CTE committee, and one of the goals of the committee is really to start to begin career pathways for students. And so this is really how this guide began. So just to preface this is just a preview. The guide, I apologize, the guide isn't completely done yet, but I just wanted to let you know, or just give you a little preview of what it's going to look like. So here's our cover. Oops. Oh no. Is there? Oh shoot. Is there a way we can get on the internet? Okay.
Well, while they're gearing that up, I'd say about that makerspace. I was in there 2 weeks ago, I think, and the 3D printers were all going, so it's fairly warm because it's all melted plastic. And I was looking at one, and these 2 students came up, and they couldn't wait to tell me everything that was happening in that space. And as we talked, I asked the one student, well, what are you going to do next year? Because he was a senior. And he said, you know, I'm not a great student, so I'm not going to go to college, but this school, or this class, got me excited about different things I can do, so I'm looking for some other training. But it was so exciting, and it was so wonderful to hear the excitement. And those, you may not have could see how they were put together, but that cowboy hat and the other things, it's cut through this printer and then it's stacked together, and they put it together after they've sent the computer the instructions to cut that cardboard out. And they can make, as you know, with the 3D printers, anything. So if students have something that broke at home that can be made out of plastic, they can program it in, make the part, and take it and fix what they need. It's pretty impressive, as you said, Nick, when you go in there and just the things that they can do. And I think each year they'll start to ratchet up on projects, and I think they'll be building jet planes from someday here.
Remind me how students get in the program?
It's an elective course, and they can choose to take the course. And as Nick said, it's part of the career and technical education, but it's in the program of study, and you can select. I think we ran just, and I might be wrong in this, level 1 courses this year, and then next year they'll be level 2.
Yeah, and it sounds like additional sections for level 1 next year, so they ran like a singular section, I believe. They have 2 level 1s next year and a level 2 for sure. So they're happy with the growth. They said the interest with students telling other students. So students really marketing with their feet as opposed to staff going out and pushing their product. It was a lot of grassroots effort by students to say, no, this is really cool stuff. You got to be part of this.
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. Well, technical difficulties. So just to kind of give you some background. So the purpose of this guide, as you can see, is to help students discover their interests, to help them research different career paths, to explore different courses, opportunities that we offer right here in the district, and then really to help them plan and prepare their coursework to align with what they're interested in. And so this guide, it will be available online, but it will also be going out in print form. It'll look kind of like a magazine, and I can send this around. And every 8th grader will get this in either their college and career readiness course or in their health course right before registration. And then about 200 copies will go out to each high school. So students can have the option of the paper copy or the online version that you're seeing here. So we have a little career assessment here. They have many, many more assessments available to them in Naviance, but this is just really a nice, simple, little easy assessment that they can try out. And some of these pages you might recognize from our program of study, and we have so many different academic options in the district, and just wanted to highlight a few of those for students. And then on the opposite side here, again, you might recognize this page also from the program of study, but with a few additions. And I know it's really hard to see up on the screen here, but this page illustrates the different options after high school. So public colleges, 4-year and 2-year private, 4-year and 2-year colleges, apprenticeships, military, and all the things that they need to know for those options. And then checklists. I happen to love checklists, and as a parent, I find these really helpful. And I think for many families and many students, they find that just having to be up on everything that they should know, when to take certain tests, when to be exploring different things. It's nice to kind of have a little bit of a little checklist to help with that process. So again, sorry, it's not that easy to read, but there's little checklists here for each year. And just reminding students about testing dates and different opportunities and things that they should be thinking about for each year in high school. And again, another document from our program of study, the course planning worksheet, to give students an idea of what they need to know in terms of their required classes and their elective options. And then this page is just an overview of Naviance, and at the bottom it shows them how to log in, depending on which school they're in. And then this is these are the different career cluster areas that really highlight what we have available in the district and just more information or more in-depth information about the careers. So as you can see on the left, talks about what this career area is, examples of different careers or jobs in this area, what this career involves, traits and characteristics of this career, and then different activity or organization options in their school. And then over on the right, up above, these are the occupations that are in demand in Minnesota right now. So this comes right from deed data from our state. And again, I know it's pretty fuzzy, you probably can't see many of those, but we have all kinds of different educational options represented up there. So on-the-job training, associates, bachelors, and some of these doctoral degrees. And then as you can see, different careers, and then the courses that we offer in the district. So if a student is interested in business, if they're interested in this area, they can see the different courses that would help them along in that career path.
So Jennifer, quick question on that page then. The occupations that are in demand,
yes.
If we're giving it to an 8th grader, it's a today's, or are we thinking out when they are going to be in the workforce?
These are today's occupations in demand, and so the 8th graders will get this in print form. I apologize. I should have added this. All students will have access to this. So high school students will they'll have the option of getting it in print form, but it'll also be available online in their Schoology account, and then also on the website. So 8th graders will be looking at this, but also 9th, 10th, and on. But to your point, I think what you're trying to say is these are in demand now, but they might not be next year or the year after. So this guide is going to be kind of a work in progress, and these things will change as those occupations change. So this is, it's going to be a very fluid document. So as I just kind of briefly show you all the different areas. So as you can see, journalism, broadcasting, visual arts, performing arts, IT, technology, engineering and math, construction, mechanics, manufacturing, our trades, health sciences, environmental science, and our human services. So a lot of people have looked at this. Principals have seen it, teachers have seen it. I've been working with counselors on this, parents have seen it, and students have seen it. And last week I had the opportunity to show this to our middle school and our high school student advisory teams, and the feedback that I got from them is they loved having everything in one place. Sometimes they have to go to different websites, or they'll have to, look at different publications, and here they have, everything in one spot. So they really liked that. They liked how colorful it was, how easy to read it was. They felt like it helped them get excited about what they're planning on doing, and the seniors were upset that they didn't have access to this, or that they won't have access to it. So I got some great feedback from them. They were the ones actually that requested having it in Schoology so they can access it easier. One thing I just want to share with you that I thought was interesting, I don't know if you remember this from, Pat was there at that session with them. I asked them, how do you want your college and career curriculum delivered? Does anybody want to take a guess at what they said?
In person.
Yes, exactly. They don't want to listen to a presentation because that's not specifically for them. They don't want to take a class. They don't want, they don't want to read a book. They want somebody to sit down with them and talk about their individual plan. And so they talked a little bit about counselors and how it helped them to be able to talk to the counselor about this. But as we all know, that not every student can, has at the time to be able to do that, and counselors sometimes don't have the time to be able to do that. But I thought that was interesting. They find this very personal, which I guess isn't a big surprise. But they were excited about this. One thing that that I'm thinking about for the future is we're going to be updating this, kind of taking out the stock photos and putting our students in here. And towards the beginning of the book, I'll just click back here. Oops. We have our students represented, but I'd like to carry this through the rest of the book. We also have the option of making the book linkable. And so, on these checklists, when they see, sign up for the ACT, they could click on that and go right to the website. With their courses, they can click on these courses and it will take them right to the program of study. So everything can be right there for them, and pretty excited about that. I think another option with this is sponsorship with our business partners. So I think there's a lot of opportunity in here to really make this what we want. So.
Well, thanks, Jennifer. Are there any questions or comments?
I think it's fabulous and overdue, and also just really encouraging it to be distributed in that, with parents and students together. A lot of times we used to have, I know at some point in some place it dropped off, where they would do these conferences, student-led conferences with the parents had to be there, and with, like being able to present this stuff. I mean, as a parent of, recent college students, in the schools don't really want the parents to get in their Naviance account, and you want the kids to do a lot, but they're not, they just don't know how to put all that together sometimes. So I just want to put a plug in for, as opposed to putting these around, just to try to really intentionally put them in the hands of parents and students together, when they can talk about how to use some of these resources. Because like Naviance is rich with stuff that I don't think, as a parent, people just don't even know how to use all this stuff. So that would be my hope, because it's a really great tool.
Thank you. And that was the feedback that we had gotten from our curriculum advisory committee. That's what the parents said, like, can you please let us know when this comes home, because we want to make sure, that we go through this, with our students and be a partner in that process. And yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Other questions?
Nick, on the licensing for the instructors, is it still that they had to have worked in the field for so many hours before they?
Yeah, so the licensing system for CTE instructors has adjusted with PELSB changing to the new licensing system in MDE. That within that, a lot of our more tenured staff have licenses that allow them to teach, but don't allow them to access Perkins or CTE funds. So it's kind of backwards in a way, that if the longer you've been teaching that area, you may have to go get re-licensed for the stuff that you've previously been teaching. We're working with, I think, a handful of our teachers right now. I wrote a grant for Perkins to give them a lot of professional development time to do a portfolio process that allows them to get those licenses so that they can bring in that CTE and Perkins funding for their classrooms. But it's, in talking with people in Pellsby at the state, they go back and forth on where this is all going. So it's a frustrating process, but it's a process that our teachers grabbed onto after we presented it about a month ago, and we're moving forward on that. So there has been some fluctuation already in the last couple weeks on how the out-of-field permission, which is what we would use as a way to get folks licensed a little bit quicker, that's made some adjustments to make it easier for folks to get licensed. So that's a positive for the teachers who are working on the portfolio process, because it's a big process. It would be like your graduate school portfolio. That's what the state is asking them to do, and to show that they have the ability to teach those classes that they've been teaching.
And then a couple comments that I was thinking about. Thank you for bringing up the sponsorship, because I was going to ask about it, if we've been thinking about that, because I would certainly support that. I would hope we're going out and soliciting some feedback from our business community and our trades, and seeing what kind of support they would, whether it's to help us print it and they can put their logos in there, just those type of partnerships. We should be, kicking every rock that we can. So thank you for bringing that forward. I'm curious then, I've seen these come out of the ground, and it's really exciting. And then how do we refresh it? How do we keep it relevant? How do we keep it updated? Because all this energy gets put into it. How do we keep that energy moving forward then, to make sure that 2 years from now when I open this book, it's still relevant and up to date?
Yeah, I agree. I think this is going to be something that we're just going to plan on updating it every year. And to your point earlier, but making sure that those careers are still relevant, that they're still in demand, making sure that this guide really reflects our students and their needs and and their goals. And I think just continuing to make this accessible for them. I'm excited that this is going to be available to them in Schoology, and so it really helped. I created a college and career readiness course within Schoology, so every student can get into that course and access this guide. They can access Naviance, they can access presentations from their counselors. And so I think just continuing to make this accessible to students. And one thing that was really important to me is, as I was creating this, is making sure that we have buy-in from teachers, administrators, from parents, from students, so that everybody is promoting this, that it's not just coming, from one person. And I think, so, when students are looking at this in their classrooms, when the counselor is sitting down with them and going through this with them, when they're at home, having these conversations with their parents, I think that's how we keep it relevant and keep it in front of them, because it is such a, it's an exciting process, but I think it can also be a really stressful process. Having all kinds of options is wonderful, except when it gets overwhelming. And so my goal for this is to keep it, I'm hoping to keep it, really clear and easy, for them, and or something that's easy to read and that they find helpful. And so for me, continuing to get that student input and that student buy-in, I think is also a key piece.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I appreciate that we're not only looking at, college career type paths, but also trades. Exactly. I think that's just critical moving forward. So, and the only other question I had, and I don't know how to do it, or if maybe it's in here. When you look at this, and all of a sudden, then I know me, the financial side of it pops in. It's like, oh my God, it's going to cost $1 gazillion to get through this whole program if I go through a 4-year. Do we put anything there about like any kind of aid? When people are starting to career path and think, or parents start thinking about, I've got a $60,000 college bill to get my kid through here, or even the student who thinks, I don't have support at home, so I got to do this on my own. How do I do it? Is that part of what we will see in here too?
I think that's a great idea, having a page devoted to financing options after college and or after high school rather, and and things to think about that. With that, we have different elements of it in here, but nothing that's completely devoted to it. I know Naviance has pieces of that. We have events, we have speakers in the high schools that that are devoted to that. But I think it would be important to have.
That's probably when my son went through this, it seemed like the career path was the easy part. It's when we started getting into the financial aid side, it's all over the place, and where to go find, where do I even think about for scholarships, where do I go to do the things I have to do for my student loans. That was the stressful, trying to find all that stuff. Where if we can at least kind of get that funnel a little bit for people, maybe that would be helpful.
I think that's a great idea. And just to remind students and parents that there's not just one way of doing something. There's not one, there's so many different options. And, in terms of education, in terms of, career path and just, making sure that students and families know that, there's definitely help out there when feeling overwhelmed with the dollar signs.
Awesome. Anybody else? Questions, comments? No, because we probably could talk all night. But really appreciate you bringing it forward. This is certainly exciting to see the lab coming to fruition now when they first got the grant, and now to see this coming. This is cool stuff. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right, with that, now we can move into our information items. Our first information item is an update about our Crestview plan, and that'll be presented this evening by our Education Achievement Integration Coordinator, Trina Patterson.
Good evening. So I am here to give you an update on Crestview Elementary, and as it was designated as a racially identifiable school. So as you know, based on October 2017 data, it was designated as racially identifiable, RIS. And so what that means is the number of protected students attending Crestview is more than 20 percentage points above the percentage of protected students in the entire school district for that particular grade level, for those schools that serve the same grade levels as Crestview. So that does not include the middle schools or the high schools in that number. The percentage is calculated by dividing the number of enrolled protected students by Crestview's total enrollment number. So the total number of protected students in Crestview, then it's divided by, the protected number then divided by the total number of students. And if that number comes out higher than 20 percentage points, it's considered racially identifiable. So a protected student is, as defined by Minnesota Department of Education, is African, African American, Asian, Pacific Americans, Chicano, Latinx Americans, American Indian, Alaskan Native, and multiracial. So again, we were originally identified as a racially identifiable school. I'm happy to announce that with this year's data from October of 2018, we are no longer considered racially identified. And we think in large part it's due to the boundary changes that have taken place. And while MDE does recognize that there are factors that come into play that we have no control over as a district as to why a school may have a larger number of protected students in their school, they do still, once a school is identified, we're still required to create a plan on how we are going to address and explain what has happened. And so what we have done is we were in the process of doing this plan, and we're going to continue with the supports and the interventions that we have designated for all of the schools in the district through the Achievement and Integration Plan. So we will still have our family engagement, professional development for employees, the liaisons, we have our Young Scholars Program, and the Nature's in collaboration with District 196. But one of the things that we did add as an intervention is an academic success coach. So we will be adding a 0.5, although we're not still considered as racially identifiable. We do understand the needs and the demographics of Crestview, and we feel that it would still be important and beneficial to add an academic success coach, a 0.5 academic success coach. So we will still move forward with that. Okay, so with that being said, this was very short, but because I didn't have to present a plan per se, and because we are no longer racially identifiable, those are the things that we will continue doing and the new intervention that we'll put in place. And MDE was very positive. They said they did not, because I've had several conversations and communications with them, they didn't feel that we had did anything intentionally to create this particular demographics for this school or anything, and they're very pleased to see that we were no longer on the RIS list.
So, thanks, Trina. Any questions, comments? No? All right. Well, thank you for the update.
Thank you.
With that, we can move into 8.2, and that's our flexible learning days, and that'll be presented this evening by our Director of Teaching and Learning Services, Kelly Jansen.
All right, good evening. Tonight you're going to hear flexible learning and e-learning used interchangeably, and you'll notice that the legislation specifically says e-learning. When we've talked with Dr. Jacobus regarding this, we've talked about flex learning because it doesn't necessarily mean online. So if you hear flex or if you hear e-learning, they are synonymous with each other. So my goal tonight is to give you an overview of the legislation, and then the steps that we're taking in 833, just give you a preview, and then at future meetings, I'll hopefully bring back a draft of what we would propose to you in order to put this in place for next school year. So in 2017, the legislature amended the length of the school year, and it includes the option of schools to utilize e-learning. It's gone back and forth a little bit that schools could plan these and use them for professional development days, but now in the 2017 legislation, they're specifically for inclement weather. So when Dr. Jacobus and Shelley get up at 4 o'clock to make that call, they can make a determination, if we are approved for this, that they can determine that day to be an e-learning day. And so that will be up to Dr. Jacobus to use, and he can use up to 5 of those. It does then count as an instructional day, and it's included in those hours of instruction. So those conversations we've had regarding the governor's legislation this year wouldn't come into play for a district like us if we had the ability to use e-learning days. So a couple points about how plans are developed. They must be in cooperation with the teacher's representative, and so working with our teacher's representatives, and they have appointed some teachers, and they've been a great crew to work with. We have had some really wonderful meetings throughout the last few months and have a really good start to a plan that we're hoping to bring for you. Because you must approve the plan, or we'll put it for you. I shouldn't say you must, because you certainly can choose not to. But the board must approve the plan in order for it to be used in an open meeting, and then we begin communication with families in September. Hopefully we don't have a snow day in September, but we let them know in September that in the event of a inclement weather day, we may call an e-learning day. What are some things that could be considered e-learning experiences? They need to be integrated into the regular instruction, so it has to be seamless. So if you're working on World War II, your assignment should relate to World War II. And so it needs to be as seamless as possible into the instruction that's been occurring. We leverage our digital tools. That's what's been so important about the adoption of Schoology. So our students have access to Schoology, and our elementary students have access to Seesaw. And over those 4 days in January where we did have school closings, our Seesaw and Schoology logins were amazing. The amount of work that teachers were still giving kids at home to say, listen, I know you probably are bored by now, so here's some things to do. And even our elementary teachers were really pushing things out to parents to say, and kids were sitting in the corner with their iPads and doing their Seesaw activities. So those digital tools have been integral in being able to do this. The e-learning experience needs to include formative assessment and feedback, so teachers need to be available during the day for students to get feedback on what they're doing. They may provide opportunities for peers to be interacting online. They include active instruction, so the assignment is in real time and the teacher has put it out there for them. And they can include options for the class to meet synchronously. So if a teacher decides to put up a WebEx, then teachers can log on, much like if you've taken a higher ed class, that's what a lot of them do for online courses. So attendance also must be taken by the teacher, and records of attendance are kept, so the teachers will determine this. And some of the ways that they can decide that they'll take attendance for that day, the logging into the class page, emailing or exchanging with, or a phone call with the teacher. The parent can verify attendance, the activities in classes, or work submitting. And those will just depend upon what that teacher has put forth as the e-learning activity. And then the teacher would record those absences just in Infinite Campus, just like they would for a normal school day. And like I mentioned earlier, they would be reported as regular instruction days through our MARS system. A couple of things about the plan that we are really important pieces of it. That the accommodations for students without sufficient access to the internet needs to be part of your communication with your parents. And so teachers in the beginning of the year will have these conversations with students and with parents, and they will be very aware of those students that don't have access, and will work with those families in different ways that they can communicate what the assignments are for e-learning. We also need to make sure that we have accessible digital instruction for students that are on an IEP or a 504. Those teams will need to, as they have their annual IEP meetings, be having conversations about what accommodations may this student need based on their IEP or 504. There also needs to be some intentional conversations for special ed caseload teachers with regular ed teachers, and being who's the main teacher contact for this person. And so there is a lot of work that our teachers will be putting into these days prior to them being able to happen. We talked about the notification to parents. We have to let them know in the beginning of the school year, but the day of the inclement weather calling, it needs to be done at least 2 hours before the start. But in talking with Shelley, that's not a problem, because our target is 5:30 a.m. So if we make that call by 5:30 a.m., then we would certainly meet that requirement. And teachers also need to be accessible via telephone and online. This was really great timing in that Bob is working really hard to refresh our phone system. And one of the features that Bob's been looking for is that the teacher's computer will now turn into their phone. And so all their calls, they can use their phone or their computer to call out. It doesn't need to be a personal cell phone. And that's something that's really important, that our teachers can still use their school extensions and everything goes to their computers. So that was perfect timing that we're doing that this summer. And so that's a component of what Bob is working on. Here are the 4 areas that the group that's been working together is looking to define or to put together for you. We will define what e-learning or flex learning means, what are the teacher expectations, what time do assignments need to be posted, things like that. The student and parent expectations, and then any way that we'll talk about accommodations are also be part of that plan as well. And we have been meeting. We started meeting at the end of March, I believe, and had our last meeting today. And there'll be some teachers taking it forward for some other eyes, and we're looking for we'll bring the final draft to you May 23rd and take a look at it. And then we're hoping for approval or conversation regarding that, and then we can move forward. So Dr. Jacobus has an option when it comes to inclement weather days. It's certainly not something he has to do. We've had a conversation, if you have 4 in a row, 4 e-learning days in a row really are going to be tough, but a few of those may be able to. So
that, I think, is a good point, that we don't plan every time we have a snow closure or weather closure that'll be e-learning. Sometimes that'll be a day where staff and kids are not expected to get online and go through the work. To do this well, it does take, as Kelly mentioned, a lot of work, and we'll try it out, and then we'll reevaluate, work with our staff to say what worked well, what do we need to improve, and hear back from parents and kids. In districts that have done this, one of the things they said is sometimes that the amount of work that we think can be accomplished is much more when kids get involved in it, and that feedback is really important after the first day. But it's a wonderful option, and I'm excited about the group working on this and defining, and Kelly plans to come back later to tell you about the specifics of what our plan would look like.
I should mention that there is some language within the contract that the negotiations committee is working on. And so it's important that we have an agreement on that before this gets put in place. So we would go forward as if it's happening, even if the contract isn't settled by December or September, but it's important that language is set because there is some contract in there that would affect what teachers do. And like I said, our teachers are working really hard on snow days. It was amazing how many posts and how many kids were interacting with their teachers on those snow days as is. So many of our teachers feel like this is something they're already doing. So,
any questions or comments? I'm surely looking forward. That's a great deal with the phone. I know our company did that maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. And that, as an employee, it was so beneficial, not having to check voice. It just automatically comes to your PC. And anytime you want to use it, getting on calls is so much easier now. It's all in one location. So I'm really, Bob, thank you for initiating moving forward.
Yeah, that wasn't a fun project, phones. And I know everybody's heard me say that, but we did sign a contract on the Joint Powers Agreement, which is Sourcewell now, last Friday. So MyTel will be the new phone system.
Awesome. And then my only request when we build the plan, we want to make sure somewhere in the line the board is checking attendance for the superintendent. Okay?
Well, if he starts work at 4, 8 hours a day, you're in by noon, right?
Just make sure. Once he makes the call, we're having an e-learning day. We'll make sure he is on the clock too then, okay?
Yes, definitely.
All right.
Shirley said, so I think you need to be involved in those 4 a.m. calls now that there's e-learning involved. And I was like, I think Dr. Jacobus can handle that by himself.
All right, well, thank you for bringing this forward. This is good work. All right, well, for that completes our information items this evening. We can move into 9.0 discussion items. We do not have any this evening. 10.0 is action items. We do not have any action items this evening. So we can jump right into 11.0, and that's our reports and comments. First one is 11.1, and that's our superintendent's report.
Well, I think we've had check-ins, and we've talked about this through different meetings. Last night we asked kids, but if you think back to a teacher that made a difference in your life, I think we all have a teacher, and multiple teachers have made a difference. And just like to keep that in mind, and to start out by saying that May 5th through 11th this week is Teacher Appreciation Week. So I'd like to thank Marty Frigian as our representative teacher here and all of our staff in the district for the outstanding work. And I want to talk a little bit about strategic planning. As you know, each spring we invite various district stakeholders, including parents, staff members, community members, and students, to spend time evaluating the yearly progress we have made toward meeting our strategic priorities and goals. The evening is structured to review each priority statement and the action steps implemented to move us closer to our 6-year outcomes that we identified 3 years ago when we implemented the plan. Cabinet members and leaders in our system charged with the responsibility for each priority review the work done and the data gathered to support our progress. The review committee is asked to respond to the work and provide feedback as to whether, in their opinion as outside evaluators, did we indeed meet our goals or not. We gather questions and feedback that we use to refine and identify the priorities and action steps we will propose moving forward next year. After reviewing the feedback, we finalize the recommendations and we will bring to the board for approval later in the summer the plan going into the following school year. Next Wednesday, May 15th, we will convene the review committee. Last evening, as part of our strategic planning focus to bring student voice into district problem-solving decision-making, we conducted the same comprehensive review of our strategic plan with approximately 50 secondary students. We invited students from all of our middle schools and high schools, and we had a pretty even split of middle school students and high school students. We also had great representation of all of our secondary schools throughout the district as well. We followed the same format we will use next week to review the plan and gather our students' feedback. We were interested in what they knew about the plan, how they believed it affected their education, and what suggestions they had to improve what we do as a school district to help them succeed. We used a Google Doc and other electronic apps to gather the student comments and suggestions, as well as a variety of processes to get the students moving around and talking to students who were not seated at their table. We will now review the comments in preparation for next week and the recommendations that the student gave us to move forward with our adult committee and to the Board of Education. The evening was a great success as evidenced by the comments and engagement of the students. In the years to come, we hope to enhance the participation of our students in the review and potentially combine the two groups so that parents and staff and community members can hear the wonderful thinking of our students. We chose this year to have a separate evening with students to make sure that we would pull out their thinking and make sure, or to ensure that they feel comfortable. And it was wonderful walking around last night when they were putting in their comments or there was an activity where they'd be up and around and asking students their questions. They had many more questions and comments than we could deal with. We could have probably had another 2.5 hours with them easily. So I'm excited to go through the data in the next few days and then be able to use that next year. And Michelle and Pat and Tracy and Sharon were able to make it yesterday, and I know you were trying to get there and had some things slow you down, and other board members as well. So it's something that I think will enhance as we go forward, but it was really an exciting night, and I want to thank the cabinet and Shelley. We put a lot of pressure on her to do things at the last minute, and it all comes together. We think it'll come together, but it takes a lot of work behind the scenes with Dana and Cassandra putting the PowerPoint together. So, and if you're able to attend next week on Wednesday, you'll see a similar presentation, and it's very impressive the work that the team did to prepare and the feedback that we gathered from kids.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Jacobus. Any questions for Keith? No? All right. We can move into 11.2, and that's our school board member reports. If I want to start with Pat.
Hey, I've been a very busy girl. I attended 2 listening sessions, one at Red Rock and one at Royal Oaks. I attended the Youth Advisory Committee. That was really fun. And the Curriculum Advisory Committee, and also the Strategic Planning last night. All of those events were interesting, and met a lot of good teachers again and very smart students in our district that have really good ideas and really interacted well and had some really good additions to what we were trying to do with this strategic plan. So,
Great. Thanks, Pat. Michelle?
Yeah, also really still enjoy going to all our school listening sessions. We're getting a lot of good feedback through those sessions. And I don't want to appear dramatic, but I do feel like on the eve of the fishing opener, our entire school budget is based on the success of the opening of fishing and our legislative team being in the same boat with the governor. So that is our last hope for a decent budget. It's really grim right now for any of you who are following. It's a good time to call your legislators, and we've got to find a way to close the gap on the budget for schools. So that's depressing. I sit on the legislative committee for the Association of Metro School Districts, and so a lot of things not getting done. So opening of fishing better be a good day, or we're all going to be in some trouble. So, but that is a serious comment. It's time to pay attention and give your representatives and senators a call to say we need to, this is how our schools get funded. This is serious business for us, and it shouldn't depend on catching a walleye on a Saturday. So on that cheery note, I'll pass it along.
All right. Well, thanks, Michelle. We'll do that with Sharon.
Oh, my God. I'm not going fishing. No. Oh, gosh. Okay, I went to one of the listening sessions at Park High School. I thought it was a phenomenal session because even though there weren't a lot of people there, I think we got a lot of information. And most recently was last night. Now, old people get tired, and 8:30 was a little long, babe. I just want to tell you. But you guys did a phenomenal job, and I want to thank you for doing that. I thought that its kids demonstrated excellent leadership skills. The program was phenomenal. The energy was great, and the creativity was significant. So thank you for the invite, and I'll be back at the next one.
All right. Thanks, Sharon.
And can I add a little bit to Sharon's piece about Park when we went to Park? Because I just want to give a shout out to them for how they have used every little tiny space in that school. It is so impressive what they've done with closets. But they created their mindfulness corner in their library, and it was so peaceful with a $200 grant. They got a little bit of training for somebody to help the students use the space. They painted it, they were lighting, and there's a little water treatment. And then they converted a whole closet for a whole resource center for the homeless students and their ability to serve their homeless students. And so I just want to give a shout out to that, because I mean, we hear about space all the time, but I was very proud of all the hard work Park and Ginger and her team have done over there.
Awesome, thanks. Tracy?
Well, you all know I was at the session last night, so I won't repeat that. But I was also able to go to Little Shop of Horrors that Park put on, which, I mean, I kind of knew the story, but I had never seen it. So it was very cool. The kids did an amazing job. The set was incredible. So really fun. And I was hoping to go to one of the other two, but unfortunately I had to watch my granddaughter and then had too many things going on. So unfortunately they only had one weekend to attend, so I was only able to make the one. And just proud mom moment. So this weekend I get to go see my son graduate. My two kids graduated from Park. And my youngest has his master's first, which he was pretty excited about to beat his brother. But this weekend, Matt gets his master's from Duke, so we take off at 7 a.m. tomorrow. So I'm super excited. But
awesome. Well,
thank you for the outstanding education, because they went here K1. So
nice. Thank you, Tracy, and congratulations. I'm going to pass on my report tonight. Mine's more about just reminding everybody that if you haven't bought your mom something by now or thought about what you're going to do for your mom, you still have 2 days. Because not only are they going to be fishing on Saturday, but the next day is when you have fishing opener on Mother's Day weekend. I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse for some moms, but, I do want to remind people that Sunday is Mother's Day, and every one of us have a mother that we're proud of, and please remember them on their special days. So.
And I accept gifts.
But you're not my mother. All right, with that, then we'll move into 12.0, and that's our future meeting dates. Our next meeting will be May 23rd here at the District Service Center at 6:30 p.m. Follow that by June 6th at the District Service Center at 6:30 p.m. And with that, we are adjourned this evening. Thank you, everybody.